Well, why don't we go ahead and just get started so you can get comfortable and just let yourself arrive. And if you like to lay down, please do so. Just make sure you have a bolster or some pillows under your knees so that your lower back will drop and then you'll be more comfortable for a longer period of time. If you like, you can close your eyes or just look very softly at the floor, not at anything in particular. And just taking a couple of breaths with some awareness of how your system is in this moment. Just taking a moment to notice, oh, it's like this. Might be peaceful and at ease today, or stressed, tight. Whatever you find, just knowing that this too is temporary. It'll be different in a few minutes or an hour from now. But the conditions today brought this. And then for tonight's sit, I'm just going to invite us to an awareness of support. So just begin by allowing yourself to just notice the floor, letting it support your feet, whether you're sitting cross-legged or your feet are on the floor. Just letting your feet get a little heavier and just take in the support of the floor. And the same for your legs. Just allowing your legs to relax and receive the support on the floor or your cushion, your chair. Allowing your legs to be supported. And doing the same for your hips and your pelvic floor. Letting your bottom just receive the support that's there. Noticing what it's like if you let yourself let go into that support or rest in that support. And the same now for your torso. Allowing your torso to receive the support of your seat. If you have the back of a chair or pillow, just allowing your back to receive that support. Allowing the front of your torso to be supported by your seat, so that your belly just begins to relax. still in an upright position, but just like stacking Oreos, letting your torso, your spine, just kind of sink in and stack in a way that is supportive, where you don't have to work so hard to hold it up. And the same in the inside as well with your organs. Letting your organs just relax a little and rest, supported by the pelvic floor. Everything stacked and resting. Letting your system begin to relax. And the same for your arms and shoulders and hands. Letting your hands rest on your legs or in your seat. The hands are resting in support. The arms supported. And the shoulders as well. The shoulders drop. All supported by the bottom up. And the same for your neck. Letting it be supported in your spine and on top of your shoulders. Just finding a position where it can rest without too much effort of holding it up. And then allowing your head to just rest on your neck, supported by your whole body. So that your whole body is supported by the floor, by your seat. letting go and relaxing. There may be a slight rocking as your body finds the most easeful position, the one that requires the less stress. Just allowing the body to find that natural alignment. And then allowing your breath to be supported by the air in you and around you. Each breath is supported by the air. Each breath nourishes you with oxygen. And you can just allow your breathing to be supported by the air. And allowing your mind to be supported by mindfulness. No need for busy thinking. Just letting your mind rest in mindfulness, stillness. Just letting your mind be without a lot of work. Body, breath, and mind all supported. And finally, letting your heart be supported by this gathering, this coming together for practice and ease. And just laying your tender heart upon this support. That the heart is held here and honored. In a safe environment. and you are welcomed here. Everyone is welcome here. Body, breath, mind, and heart, all supported in this moment. And letting yourself rest in this support. Letting yourself simply be in this support. Just be. Nothing to do. So hopefully you're feeling a little more grounded, a little supported. So tonight we returned to just our regular talks. We had focused on release for April and essence for May. If you're interested in those talks, you can always go back. You can go to maureenfoundsare.com and find the links for the recordings, or go to YouTube. And you can even sign up for when they're loaded up, they'll let you know. So this evening, I wanted to talk a little bit about Nirvana, which is kind of a nice thing. And Nirvana is a term that's known in India, in Hindu, Jainism, Buddhism. And another form of it in the Western world may be known as heaven on earth. So I'll refer to it as both, but heaven on earth. How do we find heaven on earth? And first thing I want to say is that Nirvana, or heaven on earth, is not a place. A lot of people think it's a place to get to, and it's not a place to get to. No more than we would say freedom is a place. Right? We wouldn't say freedom is a place. Nor would we say that love is a place. Right? It's not some place to get to, but it's a very real experience that we can have as humans. That's really beautiful and nourishing. I'll tell you a secret that somebody told me. A dear, dear friend of hers was dying, and it was a deep meditator who had practiced her whole life. And on her deathbed, she announced to the whole room, because she had been in deep meditation, and she opened her eyes at one moment and said, "Just so you guys know, it's all love." And she said, "The sun itself is pure love pouring down on us every day." And she said, "I can see it now." And I thought, oh, how lovely for somebody to be crossing over and say, "Hey, I have a secret for you guys." Everything's made of love. It's really awesome. Quite beautiful. So, heaven on earth, or Nirvana, is it's an experience of being, right? It's an experience where we embody something, we feel something, we feel a sense of presence. It comes often with knowledge. There's a lot of wisdom and insight that comes. We see through the veil of things, and we see truths that are there. It's also right here. It's right here. You don't have to go anywhere for Nirvana. And when we're in touch with heaven on earth, it can come through many different forms, right? You may have a moment where you notice the beauty of the day, and there's something just tangible that just pierces you, right? Or a bird song, and it just, again, pierces you, and there's something alive and connected with it. And there's incredible joy and peace in that moment. When that happens, one of the words for Nirvana is a cooling. The fires of the mind and the heart cool in that moment. And we can sense that in the joy and the aliveness of when we're pierced by a bird song or nature, something like that. You can also sense it in the silence, let's say in the middle of chaos, or, I had it at one moment in the waiting room at the hospital. There was all this chaos going on in the hospital, and I just sat down in the waiting room one day, and the silence was so amazing, so peaceful, so rich. And there was just this moment of, oh, it's right here. It's right here in the silence. It can be in your feet, feeling your feet on the ground, sometimes just walking, and there's this aliveness that happens. And somehow you're connected to the earth, and something very dynamic is happening. Breeze on your face, watching children play, there might be a swoosh of joy that comes, and suddenly everything comes alive in that moment. The fur on your favorite animal. Some people touch it when they pet their cat or they snuggle with their dog. And there's just a moment of like something just opened. And there's this beautiful moment. And sometimes you can sense it as a presence in the room, or a stillness that's underneath the chaos. You could be sitting at the Thanksgiving table or the Christmas table or whatever, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, and your family's there and it's loud and everything's crazy. And there's just this moment where you sense a presence of love and aliveness underneath, and you're just totally connected to it. It's so beautiful, this idea of heaven on earth. So heaven, or heaven on earth, Nirvana, is right here. It's right here. It's all around us. And the only thing is, can we sense it? Can we connect to it? And if we can't, or let's say we can, it doesn't need certain circumstances to be perfect. A lot of people think I have to sit on a cushion, I have to get it totally quiet, I have to have a full belly from eating. Okay, now I'm going to meditate and I'm going to find Nirvana. And it's like, it doesn't actually work that way, right? All of us have touched it in inopportune moments. So, for instance, I know that each one of you has had a taste, or you might reflect for a moment when you've tasted freedom in a moment of bondage or difficulty. And just take a moment to feel that. There was a moment in your life, or many moments, when you felt free, even though the conditions said you're not allowed to be free. And you had some insight and you were like, no, I'm free. Free of a bad relationship, free of a job that wasn't right for you. So there are moments when we're free, even when someone says, no, you're not allowed to be free. Or you might reflect on a moment of love during a stressful time, or even in the face of hatred. You know, if you're a parent, there are those moments when your children scream at you, I hate you, or they're having a tantrum. And your heart just bubbles up and you think, gosh, they're so cute. You know, you're just having this beautiful love moment while somebody's screaming, I hate your guts. You're just like, I'm sorry, I love you, right? So you can have love even in the face of hate, right? And you can have a moment of, like I said, this being or connected to heaven on earth, even in the middle of chaos. You know, it could be you're in the hospital with somebody, or somebody has cancer, and there's just a moment of connection with this person that transcends all the conditions of the moment. The reason I'm bringing this up is that Nirvana is here all the time. It doesn't need perfect conditions to exist. So what does it need? How do we connect with it? You know, I was watching this in my own mind over the last week where my father's been home now from the hospital for a week, and it's been incredibly stressful. It's very difficult for him to have these changes in nurses and OTs and PTs, and his whole world is disrupted. And why is everybody doing this to me? And then just all his medical issues. And I could walk outside and it would be the most perfect spring day. And I could feel in that moment like I'm not taking it in. I can't take it in. It's right, like, oh, it's the most perfect sunset, and I can't take it in. I can't touch it. And so I would reflect, what's in the way? What's in the way in this moment? And the only thing in the way is our mind. Our mind and our mind state. Beauty, peace, love is right here. And whether we connect to it has to do with our own mind and where we're at. So if we're stressed, the most beautiful day, the most beautiful moment can't seem to touch us. So if we want heaven on earth or Nirvana or to touch that, it's up to us to avail ourselves to it, to open to it. So I just want to do a little experiment with you, and this is just for your own self-reflection. Many of us have what I would call a habit of mind. If we're not open to Nirvana, we're not open to heaven on earth, we usually have a pretty familiar habit pattern that we're stuck in. And so I'm just going to ask you guys to just close your eyes for a moment, just for your own reflection. Just for your own reflection. So on a given day, when you're stressed, and I'm talking about your everyday average at work, my family's too much for me, whatever's too much, the world is too much, whatever it might be. And you may walk outside and you just don't even notice how beautiful the spring is. I want you to I'm going to name some different patterns, and I want you to just notice what is probably the most familiar pattern for you. So the first one is, are you unable to take in the world because your mind is anxious, because of anxiety? You may never be able to stop because you're always worried and always anxious. That's one pattern. Another is planning, a sense of desire. I never can kind of show up for the moment because my mind is always racing, planning this, planning that, planning that. I'm always going to be tomorrow over there an hour from now. I'm always planning my next river trip, whatever it might be. And not all of these will apply to you. Perhaps you miss Nirvana or heaven on earth because of aversion. You find yourself braced against the world. Nothing's good enough. You're never satisfied. If only those people would do that. If only the world would this. These people are in my way. They're bugging me. Everybody's bugging me. I hate my job. So perhaps you get caught in aversion where you're just always in a bad mood, pushing the world away. Or do you miss Nirvana or heaven on earth because of fear? Fear of, I'm going to name two kinds of fear. Fear of resting. Some of us try to stop and rest and smell the roses, and immediately a voice comes up and says, keep going, keep going, keep going. You can't rest. You have so much to do. Keep working, keep doing. And if you stop to rest, if this voice starts badgering you, you feel like you're in trouble, you're guilty. So you may have a fear of rest might be it for you. Or you might have a fear of actually connecting. You stop and you try to connect to nature or the breeze, and you're actually afraid of it. You're afraid of the world. You're afraid that if I let my guard down, some bear's going to come out of the woods and eat me. Or a tree's going to follow me. So you're actually afraid of connecting with being or with the world. That might be one for you. And the last one is collapse. Perhaps it's hard for you to connect with the world because you live in some kind of despair all the time. You're depressed all the time. You're sad all the time. The world is dull all the time. So these are what is in the way of sensing heaven on earth. There are habitual patterns of where we go based off of our conditioning, our upbringing, traumas that we've had. We often have a favorite kind of go-to place. In many ways, I see these as defenses. They're protections. We're afraid to open up. And so this is our go-to reason why we can't open up today. I'm too scared. I can't open up because I have too much to do. I'm too sad. I'm too braced. I can't let anything in. I was working with someone earlier this week and they couldn't feel anything because they weren't even breathing. They were so braced. And it took a long time for them to open and melt their body and their heart, just enough to even feel the breeze. So these are pretty strong patterns we carry. And again, there's no judgment ever in this. I just do these reflections so that you can find your own way. You can find your own way. So if Nirvana or heaven on earth is right here, and I find it's helpful to sometimes just say that, to notice the beauty around me and say, it's right here, and I'm missing it. Because I'm too stressed, too angry, too sad, too whatever. And just that naming is so important because it pulls us out of our trance for a moment to see that actually there's a whole nother world available. There's a whole nother life available in this moment. If I could just touch it. So, how do we touch it? We don't have to do anything in the world. It's already here. We don't have to get perfect conditions. I mean, like I said, I was sitting in a waiting room in a hospital. Conditions were not great, and the stillness was right there. The support in the presence of the stillness was right there if I just opened to it. So we open ourselves. We don't have to do anything to the world. We just have to open ourselves. So I just want to walk you through actually a practice I gave you last week, which was the ground practice, because it's a lovely way to open yourself back up to what's true and real right now in this moment. So if you find that you're sitting surrounded by Nirvana and you cannot touch it, or heaven on earth, the first thing you want to do outside of ground is you want to disengage whatever it is you're stuck with. So let's say there's a lot of chaos in your family. Take a moment to walk outside or go to the bathroom. Just take a moment to disengage whatever it is that has you hooked. Because really what we're struggling with is we're grasping and attached. So we want to disengage a little bit. Then we can go into this ground practice. So let's just do it. We did it last week, but let's just walk through it again. And I'm just going to orient it just ever so slightly to this idea of Nirvana and heaven on earth. And so let's assume that Nirvana is right here, wherever you are right now. Might be in the stillness or the presence of the room, or a breeze coming through your house. And so we begin with ground, the G in ground. So we ground our seat or our feet on the earth. Kind of like we did in our sit tonight, where I asked you to just feel the support of the earth. And so you make a relationship, you ground your feet, you rest on the ground. Let it support you. The R in the word ground is for rest. Take a moment to just rest. Just rest right now, just for a moment. You can go back to busyness later. So I ground and let the earth support me. And I just rest for a moment. And if there's lots of busyness like I have to, we just say we'll get to it in a moment. We're just taking a short break. And then the O in ground is for open. Allow yourself to open your chest, open your energy. Allow yourself to just open yourself to the world a little bit more. It doesn't have to be a lot. You just opening yourself to receiving what's here, the nourishment that's right here. The U in ground is for unclench. Unclench your jaw. Unclench your fist or your back. Unclench your belly. Any place where you're holding tension. If you need to, you can just breathe out the tension on the out breath, or just let it rise out of your body. So we open, relax, and unclench. So you're just allowing yourself to be receiving a little more, softening your body. And if you're very stressed, you can always go through this GROU again and again if you need to. And now that we're open and unclenching, we allow ourselves, the N, to notice Nirvana. Notice Nirvana right here. What's nourishing? You may notice presence or an energy in the room, spaciousness or support, bird songs. We ground, feel the support, rest and open. Unclench. And notice the support, the Nirvana that's right here. Maybe a quiet inside you. And then the D. I said last week, the D is to dance with it. Just let yourself engage with this nourishment, this energy. To touch it, sense it. Or if that doesn't work, another word for D is drop. Just drop any expectations. Drop any stories. Don't know what's going to happen next. And just let yourself be with this nourishment, this ease. We just dance and flow with it and let it carry us. And letting it carry us, a new world opens. It's right here. Allow it to carry you. So, yeah, so Nirvana, heaven on earth, is always here. And it's just whether our mind is open to it. And we can have these practices where we can just in an instant settle ourselves and open and engage right here. So just want to open it up if there's any questions or anything, and you can unmute yourself, or any comments, helpful, not helpful.
I have a question. Do you describe Nirvana and what makes it different from, say, equanimity or joy or essence?
Yeah.
Can you pull out what the differences are? Because it's kind of maybe a compilation.
Yeah. One of the things about Nirvana is that you can find many definitions of it, you know. In the Buddhist tradition, the most standard tradition is cooling. It is like the cooling of the mind and the heart, the cooling. And the Buddha didn't describe what it was, but he talked about saying that there is a place where, or there is an experience where one does not experience. And he has a long list of what one is not experiencing. And if you read through that list, it actually sounds a lot like essence. It sounds a lot like essence. And it has things in it like that there is no age. You know, the Tibetans have a list in the Heart Sutra, right? And they go no teeth, no tongue, right? They have a whole list of no's, not, or the word not. The word is mu, and it's translated as not. And if you're in the experience of essence, oftentimes when we're playing with essence, I'll say, does essence have an age? And people go, no, it's kind of ageless. No. I say, does it have a gender? And people go, no. You know, does it have teeth? No. Does it have ears? No. But there's hearing? Yes. Right? And so when you start to play with essence, you start to actually get a sense of what's being described with this word mu. It's not as in nothing exists or emptiness is empty or any of those kinds of terms. It's embodied. You start to understand, oh, there's no age. There's no teeth. Oh, there's no gender. And yet, something's here, right? When I've read the definitions of equanimity, for instance, equanimity I've seen equanimity, which often is translated as balance or peace. I've actually seen that translated as essence as well, that it's the experience of essence. So last week when we were here, we were doing an exercise, and somebody brought up the idea. We did essence within and then essence in the world. And somebody brought up the idea, wait a minute, they're the same, right? I'm starting to see it's the same. And so the more we play with this, the more we discover for ourselves what this is like. You can start with what some people call personal essence, essence that feels like it's in me. And I could ask you, for instance, is there a boundary to it? Where's the edge? And people go, well, wait a minute. Oh, I don't sense an edge. Wait, now, and what does that mean? And so what I would love to encourage you to do is to keep playing and to find for yourself what these words mean for yourself. It's like the idea that emptiness is not empty. I like the word formlessness, and I like the Zen teachings, all the Zen teachings that use water as an analogy, like the wave in the ocean, right? That a wave can take form and then it can recede back into the ocean. And so to me, the word formlessness points to that essence can have a formlessness and it can take a form. And so we can see it in our own meditations. We can see sometimes that flutter of the heart and we can feel the energy take form. It can take form as love or take form as compassion. But again, this isn't something for somebody to tell us. This is something for us to explore and play with ourselves. And all I'm doing is pointing to ways for you to start to unbind yourself so that you can find this for yourself. You can start to play and flow yourself. So does that give some pointers without me saying this is what the answer is for you, which I don't want to do? Yeah, thanks. It's a wonderful question. And, sometimes you can feel, at certain levels of spiritual practice, people can argue about it, right? And then there's these levels, I think, at certain levels of spiritual practice where everybody, it doesn't even matter the religions, everybody comes together and goes, yeah, we all know what we're talking about now. We've all had this beautiful experience. Maybe it gets interpreted differently, but a beautiful experience. So yeah, I would encourage you to keep playing and exploring. Any other questions or anything else that someone wants to comment on?
So, Maureen, there are some moments I think were of Nirvana or essence in which I felt like a wave of sadness about a loss, but at the same time, just a tremendous joy about being alive.
Yeah.
So it's almost like this seemingly, or my mind, my intellect would say, this do not compute. They don't go together. But my experience would tell me otherwise. And I think that kind of that the dance.
Yeah, that's part of what I'm talking about in the exploration, right? Is that one can, for instance, be in touch with deep grief. One of the lessons in deep grief is that you're fully alive in it, right? Or you can know that we've talked about before when we were working with formations, that the conditions for grief don't exist without the conditions of love, right? And you, at that level of feeling and being with your experience, you start to feel it. Like, wait, there's joy here and there's grief, or there's love and there's grief. And these are all very subtle experiences, right? But what I find is that these, like many of these deep feeling tones, like grief and sadness, often are when a formation has arisen, So sometimes you can, for instance, be looking at a beautiful sunset. Or let's say, I'll use a different example. You might be looking at some children playing, and you think, oh, they're so beautiful, and I'm having this moment of joy. And then all of a sudden there's deep grief because I never had children and I wanted to have children. In that moment, you've shifted from appreciation or mudita, appreciative joy with those children, where the appreciative joy triggered, or children triggered, a formation coming up saying, I'm the one who didn't have children. If I were to ask you in that moment to step back into essence, I might ask, is essence grieving that you didn't have children? So it's just these multiple layers. I talked about it being a lotus flower where there's these petals that fall, right? So many formations. And we just want to get better at going, oh, I was having this moment. Oh, a formation. Oh, freedom. Oh, ease. Oh, I was tight. And then I opened. And oh, there was connection and joy again, right? So we're just flowing and playing and dancing with it all. And there's no right answer. Conditions are such. Right? Everything is relative. There's a moment where seeing children brings joy, and there's a moment where seeing children will make you cry. It's all relative. So there's no right or wrong answer. There's just this unfolding, beautiful journey for us to explore. Yeah. So I hope this is of help to your practice. And I encourage you to go through the world this week and notice moments of beauty, or just standing in your kitchen and play with, wait a minute, Nirvana is here. Heaven on earth is right here. And if you're not feeling it, what's going on in your head? What's going on for you? And can you use ground to just kind of release, relax, open? And can you touch? Can you touch what's right here? Love might be here. Peace might be here. Joy. Who knows what you'll find, right? I'll just give you one last example. I was practicing myself today, and my dad was having some difficulty, and I was like, I needed to get ready for this talk, and I was like trying to have some boundary around it. My dad had a caretaker, so I'm like, this is going to be great. He has a caretaker. I'll just go ready. And I walked out in the kitchen, and it was the first time this caretaker had done some housework for us. And the kitchen was flooding with suds. They were coming across the floor. And the dishwasher was filled with suds, and they were coming out on all sides, and there were just bubbles going all across the floor. And this is like an hour or half hour before I was doing this talk. And I just found myself going, Nirvana is here. And there was just this moment where I was like, oh, I just opened, and it was like the bubbles were beautiful, and the light and the captured, and it was just, and the water was warm on my feet, and it was just beautiful. And this caretaker came over, and she was in terror. She was like, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I'd never used this dishwasher. I put too much soap on. And she was like panicking. And I said, it's okay. We're good. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. And I was like, whoa, like, chillax, girlfriend. Right. So, and her mind was going to fear, right? Oh my God, I'll get fired or something. And all I was feeling was laughter and giggles and, and I thought, 20 years ago, I would have freaked out. It was just, Nirvana was here. And then my dad said, what's happening out there? And I said, it's bubbles, and it's all wonderful. It's beautiful out here. Don't worry, we'll take care of this. So my tone of voice had, Nirvana is here. So anyway, let's just take a moment for sharing the intention, just a short intention. May our practice and discoveries here help us realize that Nirvana is here, and may it bubble out beyond us, so that all beings may realize that Nirvana is here, heaven on earth is here, and we can simply learn to open ourselves to it and receive the blessings of heaven on earth. So thanks, everybody. Hope you guys have a lovely week and enjoy lots of Nirvana, heaven on earth.